Welcome, dear dreamer. Let your eyelids grow heavy as we take a quiet step back in time, into the misty morning of a medieval world, where stone castles rise like sleeping giants on the hills, and the rhythm of daily life echoes gently through their walls. Tonight, we shall walk not in haste, but with the stillness of a traveler who has all the time in the world. No urgency, no clamor, only the soft tread of leather soles on damp earth as we approach the towering gates of a medieval castle. Let the world fade around you as we begin. The sun is only just brushing the horizon with golden fingers, casting a gentle light over the valley below. Birds have not yet burst into their morning songs. A gentle mist lingers over the fields like a shroud, and from a distance, the castle rises before us, its stone walls etched against the soft blue-gray sky. The moat is still, reflecting the castle like a painting. The drawbridge is lowered for morning deliveries, grains, jugs of milk, bundles of firewood tied with rope, and a sleepy ox cart trudging in behind us. We cross the drawbridge together. You hear the wooden boards creak softly beneath your feet, the gentle ripple of water beneath. Guards nod lazily from above, wrapped in fur-lined cloaks. One sips something warm from a wooden mug. Even the castle seems to be waking slowly. Once inside the curtain walls, the world changes. The clamor of town life disappears, replaced by the quiet murmur of inner courtyard duties. A blacksmith yawns as he stokes his forge. A kitchen boy sleepily tosses peels into a compost bin. Chickens flutter lazily by a weathered coop. We walk slowly past the well in the center of the yard. A maid draws up a wooden bucket, the crank creaking in the hush. The air smells of damp stone and firewood. To our left, the entrance to the great hall looms tall, wooden doors bound with iron. You can almost hear the clatter of preparations within, the slow clink of tankards being arranged, dried herbs being tied for stew, and the sweep of brooms across worn wooden floors. But we shall not enter just yet. There is much to explore. Let us first wander the outer edges, where the stables lie, and beyond them, the orchard and the herb garden. Each corner of this castle has its own sleepy rhythm, its own echo of centuries past. A soft breeze rustles the apple trees, dew glittering on each leaf like tiny stars. The sun has begun to climb a little higher now, though it barely peeks through the grayish sky beyond the stone battlements. The air remains cool, scented faintly with firewood smoke, wet stone, and the subtle sweetness of apples left out from the kitchen's morning prep. Let us return to those great oak doors we saw earlier, the entrance to the great hall. With a quiet groan, the door opens before us. Inside, the world changes. The stone walls give way to the vast, echoing chamber of the castle's heart. The great hall stretches long and tall, filled with morning shadow and amber firelight. Torches flicker gently on the walls. A young steward walks quietly down the central aisle, adjusting the pewter goblets laid out neatly along the main table. Above us, banners of a noble house hang silently, their fabric slightly rippling from an unseen draft. Rich reds, deep blues, and faded golds speak of centuries past, of battles fought, alliances made, winters endured. A dog sleeps curled beneath the dais where the Lord's chair sits, carved from dark wood and worn by years of rule. On one side of the hall, a group of servants prepare the fire for the morning meal. Bread is sliced. Cheese is arranged in thick wedges. Apples are cored, their peels curling like ribbons onto the floor. We do not interrupt them. We walk slowly, silently, our steps muffled by the rush-strewn floor. At the far end of the hall, a thick wooden door opens to the kitchen, a world all its own. Here, the scent of herbs and ash fills your nose. Pots simmer gently over open flames. A cook stirs a pot of porridge with a wooden ladle the size of an oar. The clatter of knives and spoons is muffled beneath the heavy stone ceiling. A kitchen boy sneaks a nibble of bread and is swatted playfully with a cloth. A cat yawns on a warm stone shelf. Someone sings softly in Latin. A prayer? A song from youth? No one seems to mind. We step aside as a servant passes, carrying a jug of milk wrapped in cloth. Her feet are bare, her dress tucked at the waist. Her hair is braided and dusted with flour. She hums under her breath as she disappears toward the storage cellars. Let us follow her, shall we? Down the cool stone steps, we descend slowly into the belly of the castle, into its cellars and larders. The air is cool and smells of earth, wood, and fermentation. Rows of barrels line the walls. Wine, beer, vinegar. Cheese wheels rest on straw. Clay jars hold pickled onions and dried apples. Here, the castle prepares for seasons ahead. Every jar and cask tells of careful hands and quiet labor. You feel as though even the air is slower down here. We climb once more into daylight. Outside the kitchen door, the kitchen garden begins to stir. Herbs sway in the wind, sage, rosemary, and thyme. The cook's apprentice gathers a handful of mint, wrapping it in cloth. Bees hum lazily between the lavender and the sunflowers that line the wall. The day has now begun in earnest. Above, we hear the slow clank of chainmail and the low murmur of knights preparing for patrol. A bell chimes distantly from the chapel. A rooster crows once, late to the party. We smile, breathe in the cool morning air, and turn toward the main staircase, the slow spiral that will carry us up into the keep, where lives unfold in quiet rhythm. But that journey comes next. For now, dear traveler, let your breath slow again. You've seen the castle wake and tasted its gentle pace. Soon we'll walk the upper halls, the bedrooms, the armory, and the tower. But only when your mind is ready to wander again. The day stretches gently onward, and the sounds of the waking castle settle into a rhythm. Somewhere in the courtyard, a blacksmith begins to hammer softly at a piece of iron, each strike echoing through the corridors like a metronome for the castle's heartbeat. We return now to the spiral staircase, narrow, steep, and worn smooth by centuries of feet. With one hand brushing the cool stone wall, we begin our slow ascent. Each step creaks faintly underfoot, and the deeper we go, the quieter the castle becomes. The sounds of the kitchen fade, replaced by the soft whoosh of wind brushing against narrow arrow slits cut into the walls. At the first landing, we emerge into the family's private quarters, rooms reserved for the lord, the lady, and their children. A long hallway greets us, lined with faded tapestries and windows overlooking the inner courtyard. Here, a servant quietly dusts a windowsill, her cloth moving in gentle circles as the wind rustles her skirts. A dog pads past us without a sound. Let's take a step inside the Lord's chamber, shall we? It's a room of quiet authority. The bed is tall and four-posted, its canopy draped in heavy crimson cloth. A small writing desk stands beneath the window, holding an ink pot, a feather quill, and a half-written letter, left for later. Near the fireplace, a robe hangs carefully on a carved chair. Beside it, boots wait, polished but worn, shaped by years of daily duty. The fire is not lit. It's a warm day, and only faint light glows from the window as we step softly across the rug. Next door, the lady's solar is brighter, filled with books, embroidery, and cushions. A younger daughter sits on the window seat, humming as she sews, her needle glinting in the light. She doesn't notice us. We're simply passing shadows in this slow-moving day. We walk further down the corridor, past the nursery, where a governess reads softly from a worn manuscript while two children nap beneath patchwork quilts. Then, just beyond a carved wooden door, we find the chapel, a space of stillness. Stone columns rise like silent trees, supporting a vaulted ceiling painted with simple stars. Wooden pews line the nave. At the front, a single candle flickers beneath a carved crucifix. The air here is cool and smells faintly of beeswax and ancient incense. No one speaks. It feels as though the stones themselves are praying. A monk in a brown robe kneels near the altar. His eyes are closed. His lips move slowly, perhaps in Latin, perhaps in silence. You may sit beside him, if you like, and let your thoughts melt into the hush. Outside, the wind picks up just slightly, brushing leaves along the outer wall. We leave the chapel and find a narrow stairway leading to the top of the tower, the watchtower. Let's go slowly, step by step. No need to rush. At the top, the air opens like a breath. We emerge onto the battlements, where a guard leans lazily against the wall, his spear resting beside him. He nods, wordlessly, and returns his gaze to the horizon. Below us, the world stretches green and golden. Fields ripple in the breeze. Smoke curls from the village chimneys in the distance. Birds swoop quietly between towers. You can see everything from up here. The whole castle, all its life and stillness. The whole castle, all its life and stillness. The training yard below, the well in the corner. The slow turn of the sun's light across the walls. The wind moves softly over the stones, carrying the scent of hay, wood smoke, and warm grass. Here we pause. No words, just the stillness of the view and the quiet thrum of a castle breathing through its day. You are safe here. You are unseen, like a shadow between time and memory. Let the breeze carry your thoughts away. We will descend again soon through the castle kitchens, the courtyard, and the village beyond. But for now, let us stay here just a little longer. The stone corridor begins to warm, both in temperature and in spirit, as the scent of roasted meats, fresh herbs, and baked bread gently weaves its way into the air. You follow the aroma down a narrow passage and enter one of the most vital chambers of the castle, the kitchen. Here, life bubbles and simmers in copper pots and iron kettles. A kitchen in a medieval castle is not a quiet place during the day, but now, in the hush of twilight, it rests. Wooden tables, still marked with the grooves of knives and stained from beets and berries, are tidied and wiped down. Clay bowls and wooden ladles rest in neat stacks. A spit over the large hearth, now only smoldering, still holds the iron rod that turned countless chickens, rabbits, or even a wild boar just hours ago. The walls are darkened with soot from centuries of cooking fires. Hooks dangle from above, suspending bundles of herbs, rosemary, thyme, and sage, drying slowly in the ambient warmth. In a corner, a barrel of flour stands beside bins of onions and root vegetables, ready for tomorrow's meals. Now, from the kitchen, we ascend a short flight of stairs to a chamber both grand and intimate, the Great Hall. This is where the nobility dine, meet, and make decisions by firelight. The hall is vast, lined with wooden trestle tables and high-backed chairs, and flanked by colorful tapestries depicting scenes of battle, harvest, and faith. By day, the great hall hums with clinking goblets and echoing laughter. By night, it is quiet, save for the crackling of torches in their sconces and the gentle sigh of wind through the arrow slits in the stone walls. A large fireplace anchors one into the hall, its flames still dancing low. The high wooden beams of the ceiling loom overhead like the ribs of a great beast, darkened with centuries of smoke. Candles in iron chandeliers flicker above, casting golden halos on the oak floor. As you leave the great hall behind, you step gently into a winding stone stairwell, its walls cool to the touch, its steps worn smooth by centuries of footfalls. The torchlight flickers gently, casting shifting shadows on the spiral path that leads you upward to a quieter, more intimate part of the castle. You arrive at the solar, a private living chamber for the Lord and his family. Unlike the colder, utilitarian rooms of the castle, the solar feels personal, cozier, warmer, touched by the soft presence of everyday noble life. Thick carpets cushion the floor beneath your feet. A wooden writing desk by the window holds a half-written letter sealed with wax. A tapestry depicting a hunt hangs behind a cushioned wooden chair, its threads slightly faded by years of sun. On a table rests an illuminated manuscript, its pages open to a prayer or a passage in Latin. A lute leans against the wall, its strings gently vibrating as you pass. A small hearth glows in the corner, where a cat, perhaps the only creature in the castle with no duties, sleeps curled into a perfect spiral. You pause for a while, letting your gaze rest on the window. It looks out over the bailey, now silent and still beneath the moon. Lanterns flicker on the distant wall walk, where a guard keeps lonely watch. Beyond, the forest stretches into shadowed silence. Back through the stone corridor, you find a simple wooden door marked with a worn iron handle. Inside is the castle chapel, a sacred space carved from the same stone that holds the rest of the fortress. Here, everything feels quiet, still reverent. A single stained glass window filters pale moonlight over a stone altar where a Bible rests with pages turned. A wooden cross hangs on the wall, and rows of benches stand in waiting silence. Candles, melted and remelted, line the walls in rusted holders. The scent of old incense lingers in the air, faint but unmistakable. This room has seen whispered prayers during sieges, the echo of Gregorian chants, and the hushed confessions of lords and servants alike. You step softly between the pews, absorbing the tranquility. From the chapel, a narrow passage leads behind a curtain, an architectural oddity. You duck under a stone arch and find yourself in a secret corridor. Castles were full of such surprises. Hidden staircases for escape, for privacy, or for intrigue. The stone here is damp and dark, and your footsteps echo. You descend again, torch in hand. The air is cooler here, more ancient. You discover a hidden storage room, a place for emergency grain or perhaps a guard's secret resting place. A straw mat lies on the floor, and a carved wooden bowl sits beside it. The passage splits. To the right, it leads to a guard tower. To the left, toward what might be the dungeon. But tonight is no night for prisons or punishment. You choose instead the tower and slowly ascend. At the top, you emerge into a watchtower turret, open to the night air. The stars above blink softly, scattered across the vast, quiet sky. Below, the castle sleeps, a slumbering giant wrapped in stone. The wind is cool, brushing your face gently as the trees sway in the distance. A candle flickers beside a guard's helm, left behind on a stone ledge. The world feels distant up here, peaceful, timeless. You linger a while in the high turret, gazing out across the vastness of the world beyond. The night has deepened, softening the edges of the landscape. The stars shimmer overhead, silent witnesses to the centuries this castle has endured. From here, you can see the castle walls in their entirety. Strong and stoic, they stretch around the keep in a protective circle, built thick with stone and reinforced with time. You decide to walk them. Descending slowly through a narrow, torchlit stairwell, you reach the wall walk, a long, narrow pathway that runs along the top of the curtain walls. Each footstep echoes gently on the worn stones beneath your feet. The breeze plays softly with the fabric of your cloak, and the faint hoot of an owl rises from the trees below. At even intervals, battlements rise from the wall, parapets with narrow slits for arrows and wider gaps to pour boiling oil if ever needed. Tonight, they are empty, save for a lone guard leaning quietly on a spear, his head bowed in drowsy meditation. Below, in the bailey, all is calm. The blacksmith's forge has long gone cold. The stable is quiet, save for the occasional snort or shifting hoof from the horses within. Chickens roost in a corner coop, nestled in straw, their feathers gently puffed. You continue along the wall until you descend into the outer ward, where the training yard lies. Here, earlier in the day, the clang of swords and shouted drills echoed across the stone. When you rise, the night feels even quieter than before. You follow a stone path through the bailey once more. The castle gates remain closed, thick, iron-bound, withstanding like a sentinel. Beyond them, the village sleeps, and the fields rest beneath a blanket of darkness. Returning slowly to the inner castle, you hear the soft chiming of a bell from the chapel tower. It is not loud, just a single, gentle note to mark the midnight hour. The kind of sound that feels like a whisper from the stones themselves. Back in the main corridor, candles have burned low. The scent of tallow and beeswax is warm and familiar. You pass by servants' quarters, where muffled breathing comes from behind wooden doors. Sleep has taken everyone now. And finally, you return to the great hall, now empty and echoing. The long table, once bustling with noise and laughter, now lies quiet. The fire is burned down to a bed of red coals. You sit by it one last time and close your eyes. As the fire in the great hall dims to glowing embers, your imagination gently drifts outward beyond the towering walls of the castle, across the moat, and down the winding hill that leads to the sleepy medieval village nestled below. It's as though your spirit takes a soft, moonlit walk while your body rests in the warmth of stone and hearth. The village lies in a gentle valley, its crooked cottages and timbered roofs clustered like old friends leaning into each other for warmth. Smoke curls lazily from stone chimneys, vanishing into the deep, navy sky above. The moonlight glistens on dew-laced thatch, and the night air is cool and still. You walk slowly down the worn dirt path, past wooden homes with wattle and daub walls, shutters drawn and doors latched. Within, families sleep wrapped in woolen blankets, a single fire burning low in each hearth. To your right, a village well stands at the center of the square. Its stone base is worn smooth by centuries of hands drawing water with care. The wooden bucket hangs still, catching starlight on its iron bands. You imagine the villagers here in the morning, chatting, gossiping, drawing water with sleepy smiles. Past the well lies the baker's hut. The smell of flour and yesterday's bread lingers in the air. A faint, muffled thump from within suggests the baker may already be stirring. Soon he'll knead dough by candlelight and prepare the ovens for another day. You peek through the slightly open shutters. A glowing ember hearth and a worn wooden table await the work to come. A cloth-covered mound of dough rises silently near the fire, patient and still. Wandering onward, you pass the blacksmith's forge. It is dark now, cold and silent, but the anvil sits ready and tools hang in place. You imagine the clang of hammer to steel, the hiss of iron in water. Sparks once danced here like fireflies, now just a memory in the cool night air. The village barn rests on the far edge of the square. Cows gently shuffle in the hay, and chickens roost on their perches. A barn cat winds its way through hay bales, its eyes catching the moonlight as it hunts for a sleepy mouse. You take the path through the trees behind the village, the trail leading through a soft copse of oaks and beeches. The forest breathes quietly, leaves rustle in a lullaby rhythm. You hear the whisper of an owl's wings, and somewhere deeper in the woods, a fox rustles through brambles. Beyond the trees, you come to a shepherd's field, where woolly sheep sleep under the stars. A thatched hut rests at the edge of the pasture, smoke rising faintly from its chimney. The shepherd, curled in his cloak, sleeps near his dog, who lifts his head only briefly as you pass. You sit upon a smooth stone by the field's edge. The grass bends gently in the night breeze. Crickets chirp. The stars above are countless and eternal. You close your eyes here, feeling the earth beneath you. It has been a long journey through castle and countryside, but in this quiet moment, it feels as though all time has slowed. The medieval world cradles you, asking nothing more than your stillness. And as your breath slows, the voices of the past hum quietly in the air, like a lullaby from across the ages. The stars begin to fade ever so softly, like embers losing their glow in the fireplace of the heavens. A delicate mist clings to the ground, wrapping itself around stone walls, sleepy trees, and thatched rooftops like a worn woolen shawl. It is morning, but not yet bright. The world lingers in twilight, not quite night, not quite day. From your perch by the shepherd's field, you see the first glimmers of dawn on the horizon. The sky turns from deep violet to a hushed lavender, then into the palest blush of pink. The rooster crows once, then again louder. Somewhere in the distance, a cow lows in her stall, sensing the day. Chickens flutter from their roosts with gentle thumps. A dog stretches by the forge and lets out a long, sleepy yawn. You wander back toward the village square. A few doors creak open. The baker steps out, brushing flour from his tunic, and disappears again inside. A boy, no more than 10, runs barefoot to the well, a wooden bucket clanking at his side. A thin column of smoke rises from the chimney of every home. A woman in a simple wool dress sweeps her doorstep with slow, practiced strokes. Her breath shows in the cold. She stops only to wave gently to a passing neighbor, who carries a basket of eggs freshly gathered from her hens. All of this is soft, natural, unrushed. Today, it seems, is not just any morning. Today is a festival day. By the village green, several men begin raising a wooden maypole wrapped in ribbons of deep red and sun-washed gold. Laughter echoes softly as they struggle and joke in equal measure. Children hover nearby, watching, half in excitement, half in sleepiness. Near the edge of the green, an elderly woman sets up a table with bundles of herbs, dried flowers, and pots of honey. She ties her shawl tighter against the chill and hums to herself, a tune older than anyone alive. A few steps away, a minstrel tunes a lute, plucking its strings gently. He tests his voice with a low, breathy hum, warming up for songs that will be played beneath the noonday sun. The village is coming to life not with haste, but with a kind of cozy rhythm. The smells of bread and roasting barley fill the air. Flags are hoisted on wooden poles, each painted with symbols of the region: stags, lions, and curling ivy. By mid-morning, the castle's gates swing open, and several riders on horseback trot into the square. They wear fine cloaks of blue and silver, the colors of the local lord. Though they carry swords, their presence is ceremonial today. No war, no patrol, only celebration. Behind them, a carriage adorned with garlands rolls through, carrying a noble woman and her attendants. They wave gently, smiling at the villagers, who bow with polite affection. The heart of the village beats stronger now. At every door, folks step out wearing tunics embroidered with bright threads, flower crowns, belts adorned with carved wooden pendants. Today is a day of remembrance, celebration, and unity. At the center of the green, a long wooden table is being set with trenchers, wooden mugs, wheels of cheese, pies with crimped edges, and roasted fowl. All around, people help place dishes, laughing gently, their movements slow and familiar. There is no rush. This is a day meant to be savored, like honey melting on a warm oat cake. You sit on a low stone wall and take it all in. The voices, the scents, the crisp air. You are not merely watching a medieval festival. You're within it, wrapped in its rhythm, held by its warmth. As the sun rises higher, music begins to play. A slow, dancing melody, flutes, drums, and the hum of a rebec. Laughter grows. A gentle breeze carries petals through the air. And still, the day feels unhurried, soft. It is here that you remain, resting in the golden hum of a world long past, yet somehow so present. The village now hums, not with the clamor of labor, but with a leisurely joy, that rare sweetness of a day where nothing must be done except to be, to laugh, to eat, and to remember. The square is alive in a sleepy kind of way, like a cat stretching in a sunbeam. The air is scented with freshly baked bread, honeyed apples, and sweetmeat. Somewhere near the edge of the green, a fire crackles lazily under a large iron cauldron, where a young man stirs a stew of root vegetables, barley, and bits of smoked goose. Children weave between legs and tables, trailing ribbons and half-eaten buns. Some have painted cheeks, and one ambitious girl carries a straw crown made by her grandmother, crooked but full of pride. In the center of the green, the maypole stands tall and dressed, its ribbons fluttering like the tails of birds. Villagers, young and old, form a circle, taking hands. A slow melody begins, plucked on a lute, and the dancers begin their steps. It's a simple dance, one passed down from generations, a spiral and a weave, laughter mingling with the rhythm. Some stumble and laugh louder, while others move like they've done this their whole lives. The musicians sit on a low wooden stage beneath a canvas awning, playing quietly, flutes, tambourines, fiddles, and an old rebec. Their melodies drift like dandelion seeds on a breeze. Near the far end of the green, a storyteller climbs a low barrel, gathering children around him like chicks to a hen. He's wrapped in a thick brown cloak with faded embroidery, and his beard is as wild as the forest he's about to describe. He speaks in a soft, rich tone, spinning tales of knights who speak to ravens, of a washerwoman who became queen, of a fox who outwitted a bishop, and of a dragon who never quite learned to fly. The children sit spellbound, cheeks sticky with honey, eyes wide. The adults lean nearby, pretending not to listen, but you see them smiling with the corners of their eyes. Down another path, just beyond the churchyard, young men toss stones, trying to outdo one another in distance. A few girls balance eggs on wooden spoons as they race along the green, their laughter sharp and clear. Old men sit on a bench, playing a game with pebbles and wooden tokens. They argue quietly about the rules, then forget them altogether and chuckle like boys. You make your way to a small wooden booth where a woman is crafting runes into soft clay. She explains, gently and slowly, that each symbol tells a story of seasons, of stars, of blessings. You take one home. It is shaped like a crescent moon and smells faintly of rosemary. In another stall, a weaver spins wool, showing two curious boys how to twist fibers and dye them with crushed berries. The cloth she creates is rough, but deeply colored, a deep plum that catches the sun like velvet. And beneath the large oak at the center of the green, an elder sits with a flock of children. They offer her wildflowers and ask for a very old story. She smiles, nods, and begins a tale from her childhood, of how the village came to be, of the day the wind carried away the church bell, and how it was found, years later, in a barley field. As the sun reaches its peak, the villagers pause, and bells ring slowly from the church tower, low, deep, and steady. Not a call to prayer, not a warning, just a ritual, a moment of stillness. Everyone stops. They close their eyes. Some make small gestures of thanks. Some hold hands, some just breathe in the moment, as if preserving it in memory. You do too. This pause, this moment where joy is wrapped in silence, is as sacred as any sermon. The feast will begin soon. The music will rise again. But now, the world is hushed in golden stillness. The kind of stillness only found in forgotten times, under oaks older than kings. The stillness passes like a breath, and slowly the village begins to stir again. The bells fade, but their quiet echo lingers like ripples in a pond. Now it is time for the feast. Long wooden tables have been set under the trees, some crooked, some patched with stones beneath their legs to keep them steady. The benches are filled quickly, and those left standing simply bring stools, logs, or just sit on the soft grass. Plates are wooden, bowls are clay, and the mugs are as mismatched as the villagers' tunics. But no one minds. The smell of food is too inviting, too rich and earthy to allow for complaints. From great iron pots and baskets, the villagers serve each other with easy familiarity. There are loaves of dark bread, crusty and warm, baked with rye and oats. Small wheels of goat cheese, wrapped in cloth, are passed from hand to hand. Roasted carrots, their edges blackened and sweet, and onions cooked until golden and soft, fill the air with their aroma. Salted meats, thinly sliced, lie on wooden platters beside pickled cabbage and apples cut in rounds. Pies appear, some filled with honeyed plums, others with minced mushrooms and herbs. They're imperfect, rustic, and a little lopsided, but utterly delicious. Laughter begins to bubble up like spring water. Children giggle as they sneak extra pieces of pie. An old man tells a joke he's told every year, and somehow everyone still laughs. A jug of mead makes its way around the table, passed with stories and toasts. It is strong and sweet, and a few villagers sip more slowly than others, heads already growing a bit lighter. One villager begins to sing, a low, meandering tune about a ship that was built on dry land, and the others join in, some with harmony, most without, but all with heart. At one end of the green, a pair of sisters bring out small bunches of herbs tied with twine. They trade them for berries, a spool of dyed thread, or sometimes just a story. Their mother taught them which herbs to gather, and today they've brought sage, mint, and sprigs of lavender. Nearby, a dog naps beneath a table, tail thumping now and then when scraps fall within reach. A hen wanders boldly between benches, chased half-heartedly by a child with a wildflower crown askew on her head. And all the while, the breeze drifts in soft and playful. It lifts the ribbons from a nearby post, carries the scent of rosemary from a breadbasket, and rustles the sleeves of a woman humming softly as she shares stew with a stranger. No one is a stranger today. Everyone belongs, if just for this afternoon. The feast is slow like everything else. No rush, no urgency. Just plenty of time and enough food for all. Laughter comes in waves, and stories flow more easily now as the villagers lean in close. And soon, the music begins again, not lively this time, but gentle, the kind of music that drifts rather than dances. A harp joins in now, its strings plucked like drops of rain on still water. A song about a mother spinning wool while waiting for her child to return from sea fills the air. Some sit back with full bellies, staring up through the canopy of leaves, watching the sun shimmer through green branches. Others begin to nap on benches or curl up beneath tables. Even in celebration, peace is never far away. As you sip from a cup of warm cider, the world seems slower, softer, as if time itself has grown tired and taken a seat beside you. You close your eyes just for a moment and feel the hum of contentment all around. The air begins to shift just slightly. You feel it on your skin before you see it, a subtle cooling, the breeze turning crisper as shadows stretch longer across the earth. The sun's angle deepens, painting everything in hues of amber and rose. The great feast has quieted now. The tables are still full, but the noise has softened. Voices are hushed, the laughter gentler, as though the village has agreed, without speaking, that it's time to settle into something slower still. A few elders rise slowly from their benches, rubbing stiff knees and adjusting cloaks. They begin to tidy the tables, though tidy is a loose term in a place where goats still occasionally wander through and nibble on anything left unattended. A small group of children chase each other in lazy circles, their voices echoing in bursts, while the older ones begin to gather wood for the evening fires. In the center of the green, where the grass is bare from years of footsteps, a fire pit has been arranged with care. Smooth stones ring the edges, and a thick pile of dry, kindling waits at its heart. With practiced hands, a bearded man leans in with flint and steel, striking sparks into the waiting straw. Soon, a flame catches, and it spreads slowly outward, licking the wood like a cat cleaning its paws. A cheer goes up, not loud, but full of quiet satisfaction. Around the growing fire, blankets are unfurled and stools and logs dragged into position. Some villagers bring mugs of leftover cider, while others carry baskets filled with fruit, nuts, and small wheels of cheese wrapped in cloth. The first story is always told by the blacksmith, whose voice is deep and gravelly, like a river over rocks. He tells of a giant who once lived beyond the forest, who shaped mountains with his hammer and slept beneath the earth. It's a tale everyone has heard, but somehow it never gets old. He gestures with broad hands as he speaks, shadows dancing across his weathered face. Children sit rapt, wide-eyed and silent, while the fire crackles and spits sparks skyward. Next, the midwife shares a tale of a fox who married a star and the trouble their children cause when they refuse to stay on land or in sky. Her voice is lighter, like wine through grass, and it sways and dances with her tale. By now, the sun is nearly gone, and the sky above shifts into deepening purples and blues. A few stars blink softly awake, as though rubbing their eyes after a long day. The fire is warm, but never too hot. It casts a soft, flickering light over everything, making the village look like a painting in motion. The miller's daughter sings next, not a story exactly, but a lullaby her grandmother used to hum while combing her hair. It's about a lark who forgot how to fly, and the dreams it had while sleeping in the reeds. The song is soft and slow, and though the words are strange and old, everyone listens. Some close their eyes. A few lean gently on one another. You feel the night settle into your bones, not coldly, but comfortably, like a woolen blanket tucked in just right. From the darkness beyond the fire, you can hear the faint chirp of insects. A breeze moves through the trees, stirring the leaves like whispers. Someone tells a short tale about a frog who tricked a prince out of his crown. Laughter bubbles up again, warm and hushed, like the embers beneath the fire. Nearby, someone begins to play a lute, quietly, just plucking gentle notes into the night. The tune drifts above the flames, into the stars. It is a good night. There are no torches here, just the fire and the stars and the sleepy hum of a village wrapped in stories and comfort. One by one, people begin to drift away, whispering good nights and tucking blankets under arms. Children are carried, already asleep. You don't catch the ending. You're too relaxed to care. Your eyes close, and the world becomes very still. As the sun finally melts beneath the distant hills, the shadows stretch their long fingers across the cobblestones, drawing a velvet curtain over the castle grounds. The once busy courtyards now whisper with the sound of closing doors, the rattle of a latch, and the rustle of a cloak drawn tighter against the growing chill. In the kitchens, the fires burn low, red coals glowing like sleepy eyes in the hearth. A final cauldron is stirred, its contents prepared for the next morning's broth, while the last of the scullery maids wipes down wooden counters, humming a low tune passed down from mothers to daughters. Candles are lit one by one, their flames trembling as they awaken. The narrow corridors of the keep fill with the scent of melting tallow and beeswax, casting a warm, golden hue across stone and tapestry. Even the rats, scurrying along rafters, seem to move more slowly now, as if honoring the peace that night demands. In chambers big and small, people prepare for sleep. A mother brushes her daughter's hair beside a shuttered window, her strokes methodical and gentle. The child's eyelids droop, not just from weariness, but from the comforting rhythm of tradition. A young page boy folds his tunic with care, placing it at the foot of a straw-stuffed mattress before crawling under a scratchy wool blanket. In the main hall, the large hearth is still aglow, surrounded by a few lingering figures, guards off duty, sharing a final cup of watered wine, old servants resting their feet, and a castle dog sprawled out like a tired knight, its belly rising and falling in soft rhythm. Even the air changes. The noises that once echoed through the castle, clanging metal, stomping boots, shouted orders, now give way to softer sounds. The creak of timber, the hoot of an owl, the dripping of water into a stone basin. Up high, atop the battlements, the night watchman walks a slow, steady path. Cloaked in fur and leather, he holds a lantern that casts a small bubble of light around him. He gazes out into the darkened countryside, where fires burn in distant peasant cottages and stars peek between drifting clouds. There's a kind of silent authority in his posture, a man used to being alone, to being the eyes of the castle while the rest of the world sleeps. Inside a small scriptorium tucked behind the chapel, a sleepy monk closes a vellum manuscript, kisses the cover gently, and places it back on a shelf. His ink-stained fingers extinguish a candle, and with a quiet amen, he disappears into the corridors, sandals echoing softly. Meanwhile, in a nearby chamber, a nobleman's steward double-checks that doors are locked and valuables stored. A ledger is closed, sealed with wax, and placed beneath a modest lockbox. Order is a comforting companion in the medieval night. Even the torches along the walls of the great hall are dimmed now, one by one, as a servant with a taper snuffer makes their final round. Each extinguished flame is a punctuation mark in the long paragraph of the day. By now, the hush is nearly absolute. The castle, once alive with the bustle of hundreds, has become a great stone cradle, holding its people in sleep's quiet arms. There is peace here in these thick walls, beneath hand-woven blankets, and within dreams not yet dreamt. The final fire sputters softly in the hearth. The castle sleeps. Inside the quiet stone walls of the castle, sleep now reigns as the truest monarch. The noble and the servant, the scribe and the stable boy, all lay down under the same velvet night, sheltered by time-smoothed walls and warmed by fading hearths. The chambers where nobles sleep are not extravagantly luxurious by modern standards, but by the day's measure, they are cozy retreats. Large four-poster beds made from heavy oak, their posts carved with curling vines and heraldic beasts, stand proudly on worn rugs. Thick curtains, often wool or brocade, hang from the canopy to draw around the sleeper and keep away the chill that slips through stone walls like a whisper. Pillows are stuffed with feathers if one is fortunate, straw if not. Beneath layers of linen sheets and woolen coverlets, bodies curl into the warmth, safe from the draft and darkness outside. Many sleep in shifts. Husbands and wives, nursemaids and children, often bundled together not just by affection, but by sheer necessity of warmth. In the servants' quarters, sleep is more communal. Rooms filled with simple cots or pallets, often shared among 2 or 3 people. Boots left near the wall, cloaks hung on pegs, and snores that rumble gently through the dark. Here, sleep is a shared experience, a necessary surrender after long hours of toil. And in the tiniest corners of the castle, where torches don't reach, night creatures stir. Cats curl on windowsills. Bats flutter out from hidden beams. Mice scurry through storerooms, their tiny footsteps drowned by dreams. Midnight in a medieval castle is sacred, not just as the halfway point of rest, but as a time when the veil between the natural and supernatural was thought to thin. Many feared the witching hour, while others believed it a perfect time for prayers, for quiet contemplation, or for secret lovers to tiptoe down stone corridors lit only by moonlight. In monasteries within castle grounds, some monks rise at midnight for matins, whispering chants and psalms in the cold chapel, their voices echoing like ghosts. They do not complain of broken sleep, for in their view, sleep is merely a pause between prayers. Dreams, too, were regarded with solemn interest. Some believed dreams were divine messages. Others considered them the devil's playground. A noble woman might recount her dream to her priest, hoping for a sign of providence or a warning. A knight might wake suddenly, gripping his blanket like the hilt of a sword, chased by phantoms of past battles. Yet more often than not, the dreams were simple. A peasant dreams of ripe fields and warm bread. A cook dreams of spice from far lands. A stable hand dreams of a horse that finally speaks his name. And all these dreams roll softly in the minds of sleepers as the castle itself seems to breathe, slow, steady, safe. Even the castle walls seem to slumber. Their ancient stones, worn and wise, hum with the breath of history. Owls call from high battlements. Trees outside rustle gently. A lone candle flickers its last, then surrenders to the night. Time, during these dark hours, seems to stretch, soft, pliable, almost eternal. Minutes melt into hours as sleepers drift deeper into dreams, wrapped in layers of linen and memory. The night wanes slowly. Before the light of morning fully returns, there is a sacred, silvery hush, the last quiet breath of night still holding the castle in its arms. And then, like a whisper passed from stone to straw, life begins to return. In the lowest level of the keep, a kitchen maid stirs from her woolen blankets. She rubs her eyes with soot-stained fingers, stretches in her coarse shift, and tiptoes through the cold stone hall barefoot. Her destination, the great hearth, where embers still glow faintly beneath a mound of ash. With practiced care, she kneels and fans the coals, adding kindling and dry moss. A few sparks jump. Then, the gentle crackle of new flame is born, chasing shadows away, one lick of fire at a time. Soon, iron pots are hung above the growing blaze, and the scent of warming porridge begins to rise. Above her, other servants begin to stir. Creaking doors echo faintly, water splashes in wooden basins, and muffled yawns travel down stairwells. The castle, for a few more minutes, is caught in that gentle threshold between dream and duty. Somewhere in the main hall, a steward's footsteps echo as he checks the door bolts, counting softly to himself. In the stable, the first snorts and stamping of hooves begin as a stable hand brushes sleep from his eyes and opens the barn doors to the cool, damp morning air. The sky outside blushes pink and lavender as it stretches into dawn. Mist clings to the fields like a sleepy veil. Birds call out tentatively, first one, then another, until the trees echo with gentle music. Inside the chambers, candles are relit. A noblewoman yawns behind a velvet curtain, her lady's maid drawing back the drapes to let the morning light spill across a carved oak floor. She reaches for a basin of lavender-scented water and slowly splashes her face, awakening not just her skin but her thoughts for the day ahead. Down in the chapel, bells toll softly. First a low, slow chime, then another, like the heartbeat of morning calling all to rise. A monk crosses himself, eyes still heavy with dreams, and opens the great wooden doors to let in the dawn. Breakfast preparations begin in earnest. Platters of bread are sliced, cheese arranged, apples polished to a shine. A fresh pot of barley tea steams beside trays of trenchers, and the cook ladles porridge into wooden bowls lined up for servants. There's a low hum of voices, laughter tucked beneath sleepy conversation, and the clang of ladles and tankards like a familiar morning song. The guards on the night shift hand off their duties to the morning watch. Sleepy eyes meet alert ones. Helmets are passed from hand to hand, and spears leaned in corners are shouldered once again. And as the sun finally spills fully over the horizon, touching the highest tower with golden grace, the castle breathes in the new day. Children run out into the courtyard, their laughter the first true sound of day. A scribe unrolls a scroll in the scriptorium, dipping his quill with fresh ink. A blacksmith begins heating his forge. A young page, rubbing his eyes, hurries toward the great hall, balancing a stack of letters in one hand and a piece of bread in the other. The cycle begins again. The castle lives again, and the long story of stone and sweat and sleep continues. down a long corridor thick with the scent of herbs and hearth smoke, we find the castle kitchens, one of the most spirited places behind these old walls. Here, in the warm glow of firelight, cooks work rhythmically, their sleeves rolled, cheeks flushed from heat and cheer. The chopping of onions, the stirring of stew, the clinking of ladles, all blend into a soothing background hum. Great haunches of meat roast slowly, potatoes are piled into heavy pots, and thick loaves of bread cool beside great wheels of cheese. A sleepy cat curls atop a flour sack while the head cook, eyes sharp but kind, oversees the dance of preparation. Past the kitchens lies the buttery, a quiet, cool chamber where ale and wine rest in deep barrels, and servants measure out drinks with practiced hands. The cellars below are hushed, home to ancient stores of root vegetables, grains, and honey jars. Even here, in the quiet and the cool, there's a sense of sacred purpose. The sustenance of the castle begins here. Evening falls, and the great hall glows anew. A feast begins, not one of raucous revelry, but of soft merriment and gentle cheer. Laughter drifts lightly, music hums from lutes and flutes, and goblets are raised in quiet toasts. Roasted meats, steaming pies, sweetened fruits, and savory cheeses make their way to the tables. The fire crackles in the hearth, shadows dancing against stone. The steward, always attentive, ensures that each guest, noble or lowly, finds warmth and satisfaction. It is not excess that rules here, but contentment. The feast is not wild, but welcoming. One by one, the candles are extinguished. The laughter dims, replaced by the sound of wind brushing the walls and distant owls calling from the woods beyond. The castle settles, as if it exhales after a long, noble day. The servants retreat to their corners, the noble family to their chambers. Guards yawn as they take the final watch. Somewhere, a dog sighs, curling tighter in straw. All around, the ancient stones seem to whisper stories only the moon hears. Let us take one last walk, slow, soft-footed, through the sleeping corridors. Our steps echo gently against the stone as we pass closed doors and quiet chambers. This place, with all its might and majesty, rests now in silence. Each doorway, each tapestry, every stone and beam holds centuries of quiet history. Whispers of joy and sorrow, of duty and love, linger in the air like smoke from a dying fire. And now, from the high castle wall, we gaze out over the still world. Fields stretch like patchwork under silver starlight. The river glimmers, and the forest holds its breath. The castle behind us glows faintly, its heartbeat slowed, its soul at rest. As you breathe, slow and deep, the world around you follows suit. The stones beneath your feet, the stars above your head, all seem to sigh in time with your own breath. Safe still and timeless. Sleep, dear traveler. You've walked the winding halls of history, and now the castle keeps watch while you dream.